Hello, everybody. My name is Tatiana Shalepko. I'm Cambridge University Press CLT consultant, and today we are talking about grammar, top tips in teaching grammar to teens. Before we start, just tell me here in the chat, type in the chat whether you are here, you can see me, you can see the screen, and you can hear everything I say. Great. Okay. I've got a lot of yeses. Great. Oh, perfectly well. That's wonderful. Okay. So we will talk about some grammar questions, grammar issues, and this will be rather food for thought. Because it is impossible to fit the whole grammar topic into 1 hour. That's why we separated it into a few sessions, and another session I will show you where you will be able to take part in it. But today we will just look at a few tips. Yeah, tips in teaching grammar to teens. And my first question would be, does grammar matter in communication? And look at the screen, you can see two sentences, a question and another question. Sorry for that question mark. It doesn't have to be there in the second one, but it's a question and an answer. Where's John? He go to cinema. Can you correct the mistake? Well, that's interesting. So where's John? He went to the cinema, yes, or to cinema. He went to the cinema. What does that mean? If we omit a word, first of all, article, if it's written communication and we put a question mark at the end, if we forget to check with the time sequences, yes, we forget to check the tense, what tense it is. Do we still understand if we are asking where's John and somebody says he go to cinema? Do we still understand what's going on in this situation? Or it's absolutely not understandable? Yes, we do. Of course, the subject who is answering he go to cinema with a question mark at the end of the sentence, if it's online chatting, for example, of course, we understand that, well, he made a mistake. That's a little error. It doesn't mean much for our communication, so we understood. But at the same time, you had different answers. If we say, John goes to the cinema, it means that from time to time, or every day, or we don't know, but we know that John goes to cinema. Maybe he prefers cinema to theater, right? If we say John has gone to the cinema, he's not here, that would be the most appropriate answer. Yes, John went to the cinema yesterday, but now I don't know where he is. Yeah, so it depends on the context, but in the context, we receive such an answer and we are not misunderstood if we give such an answer. But what would you do in real situation? Would you correct this mistake? if there is, for example, someone from another country, from Italy, for example, and you're at the conference and you say, where's John? Yeah, your friend or your colleague. And somebody says, go to cinema. We could just say cinema. That's enough, right? So why do we need grammar in this case? And what is grammar in this case? Let's have a look. If we are writing your student and your student, if we pronounce it, it doesn't matter. But if we write it somewhere, it might lead us to the miscommunication, right? Because your student, we know you are a teacher and this is your student. Your student means exactly the opposite. So this would cause some problem in depending on the context, of course, but this might cause a problem. And for that, let's see, what is grammar? I have two funny pictures here because I was looking, when I was preparing this webinar, I was looking at the etymology of the word grammar. So Greek etymology for grammar stands for the art of writing letters. So it's art. And we know that the classical understanding of grammar is the system of the rules that work that work in the language. Yeah. Well, somehow like this, but it's a system of some rules for the language. And this might lead us to understanding grammar as a very scholastic thing. But at the same time, we have an Anglo-Saxon etymology of the word grammar. And they said, etymological dictionary says that Anglo-Saxon etymology is rather different from Latin and from the Greek one, because in ancient English, the word grammar would sound differently a little bit, but stand for magical spells. So grammar is something that a magician, a wizard, or a witch would use to influence another person. And that might give us some nice food for thought. Yeah, we can influence, we can communicate our message better if we know grammar. We look and we sound and we seem educated if we know grammar, for sure. But good grammar, good understanding of how language works gives us the instrument to use the language, not just to communicate everyday needs or to communicate something very simple, but to bring our message to the world. And oh, sorry for that. That happened when I was converting the presentation to a PDF. Excuse me. What's written here is cognitive trait hypothesis, containing the topic of the language as a system. I recently watched a wonderful video from one great scientific YouTube channel. And what was happening there? You can see in the picture a monkey, and a monkey is pushing all the buttons that get light in order 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And monkey has a very excitingly precise short-term memory. So what can this particular monkey do? Her name is I, can in half of a second memorize all the numbers, and then when they are hiding, she can tap on each position in order of the numbers. A person, there is an experiment, and a person, a human being, can't do even first 3, can't memorize. So short-term memory has this direct connection to our language abilities. And why I'm telling this, this is the discovery of Dr. Matsuzawa, the professor of primatology from Japan. And why I'm telling this? I'm telling this because we very often, we are trying to develop this metalinguistic knowledge in our kids, giving them verb to be, I am, he is, we are, and so on. But this is a system that we give to our students, our young learners, yeah, if we start from young learners. And young learners wouldn't understand that properly because they have very little amount of language in general, and they are closer to what we can say, this pure understanding of information. They can memorize things, they can imitate things much better. But if we think of teenagers, their linguistic abilities are stronger. And what Dr. Matsuzawa says, that the better we develop our language abilities, the worse our short-term memory becomes. We definitely can train both, and it's important that we train both. But at the same time, the better we create connections between different items of the language, the better, the worse our short-term memory is. And that's a great fact to understand how important it is to not to give this set of rules that students have to memorize, and then in the end ask them to produce the language, right? Because these are two very different and opposing processes, memorizing rules and then producing the language and building connections. So it's much better to start from building connections at once. And if we look at the grammar, what counts as grammar? We have the first picture, then one set of words and 2 sentences. Look at all of them. Is it all about grammar? Is everything on this slide counts as grammar? Does everything on this slide count as grammar? Made a mistake. But yeah, we all make mistakes. No, no, no. Interesting. What doesn't count as a grammar? Punctuation. Isn't it grammar? Okay, I've got a yes. A few no's, a few yeses. Okay, let's move on. So everything counts as grammar because the first picture would go for syntax. Of course, punctuation and Oxford comma is a funny part of it, but I just decided that this picture would let you have some fun. Anyways, we count syntax as grammar. We count morphology as a part of grammar. But at the same time, as Scott Thornbury says in his 101 Grammar Questions, a wonderful book. I love it a lot. So we have it in the Linguist Company if you're interested. That's a great reading. So what he says that morphology is somewhere in between, and that's a very shaky line between grammar and vocabulary. If we think of morphology, for example, if we take the word move and remove, it's morphology for sure, but it's about the meaning of the word, yeah, and it's not grammar anymore. But walk, walked, walking, it's about the form of the word connected to the tense, so it is grammar. So here we need to be careful. But who we? The scientists, the linguists, the philologists, but not students. They definitely don't need to know this in grade 5. Right? There will be word formation, but for some other reason, for the use of it. And the last one, I saw John a minute ago. She must have left. The same John who went to the cinema. And here it's about discourse. Yeah, the discourse level also is about grammar, but also is about cognitive linguistics. So how do we teach grammar if we have so many parts of it and so many different cases and so many things that might confuse our understanding of a rule, because there are so many rules and lots of them have so many exceptions. How do we believe those rules if we learn it and then we meet something? Whoa, yeah. How do we teach that? Yeah. Let's have a look at how this typical grammar typical approach to teaching grammar works. Look at this. This is a grammar school from the, can you guess a century? What century is this on the slide? Hello, everyone who joined. Happy to see you. Okay, Antonina, Tatiana, Vera, yes, this is 17th century. And it's a typical 17th century grammar school. Did they learn grammar there? No, not really. They were studying Latin. And we are still using the same approach in teaching grammar that they were using grammar schools to learn Latin, the dead language, the language that they are not going to use to speak. Just think about it. We have now in 21st century, we use language for communication. We might learn Latin to read something old, really, really old, or to become a doctor or whatever, but we would use that approach with Latin. But why would we use this approach with English, where we need to use English in everyday life? Even, it's like a must-have these days. we are not going, if we're not going to enter the linguistic university, we don't need all of those construction to build in our head just to communicate the message, right? So let's think about the validity of such an approach that we are still using today as translating, especially for grammar. Of course, it's a good thing to have additionally, but shall we build the whole studying process on this approach? That's a question to ask yourself. And how is grammar best taught? You can see on the slide a chart with the Scholastic Approach used in 15th, 16th, 17th, and up to the middle 19th century, before we started talking about some other ideas in the world. But Scholastic Approach and the Natural Approach. Scholastic Approach is academic, explicit. Yeah, we have explicit instruction. Bilingual, we need to translate all the time. We learn the rules first, then we are trying to either see them in the language or produce this piece of language knowing the rule. Focused on written language, the Scholastic Approach. So we read something and we see how the rule works, and then we write something to make this rule work. And then focused on accuracy. Everything should be very precise there in the writing or in the reading piece. And the more widespread today is the natural approach. How we naturally learn the language to communicate with other human beings. It's experiential. So we base what we know about the world on our experience, and we are trying to communicate this to another person using this sign. Yes, using the language as a sign to communicate something bigger than language is, but to express ourselves and so on. And implicit learning, right? We understand the rules from how they work in the situation. We understand how language is a system from our experience. So we elicit the rule out of a student based on the context, but we don't instruct them how to speak based on the formula. Monolingual, we naturally learn the language using one language. Yeah, when we are born, we don't use two languages to translate from something to something unless it's nonverbal communication. Rule discovery. So students kind of discover the rules. They observe the language and discover the rules. Focus on spoken language. So we use it to communicate with each other by the real situation. So we speak with each other, and focused on fluency, not accuracy, but fluency. Of course, we can't take only one approach and say that this should work here in Ukrainian school with Ukrainian students, with this particular class, and with this particular teacher. When I teach English, very often I just translate things into Ukrainian because it's faster. Yeah, if I don't need that particular word for the message, but students are stumbling in it. then I very often correct mistakes, and yeah, I'm not focused on accuracy, but I'm using some techniques to provide accuracy and to keep accuracy of the language. And what is your approach? How do you teach grammar to your students? Do you use Scholastic Approach? Do you use Natural Approach? Or do you combine both? Okay. I have mostly both. There was only one Scholastic, and there are none who would go, oh no, there's somebody with Natural Approach. Okay. Of course, in today's world, when when everything is merging and all the sciences are merging, and we have such sciences as neural no, how it's called, electroneurology. Such a science exists. Yeah. So these days we are living in the world of combinations, because recently, well, it's not the point, but we are trying to combine what was separated before. We would use, sorry, it's becoming shiny. Sun is moving, or the earth, yeah, the earth is moving, and it's shining. Okay, so the best way today is to combine everything, because if we can't just say that Scholastic Approach means bad approach, or Natural Approach, it's too new. Yeah, I shouldn't be using that. No, there are good things in traditional in traditional approaches. There are good things about the new approaches, but at the same time, there are drawbacks in each. For example, if everybody starts saying he go to cinema and paying no attention to grammar, that wouldn't be really good. And we, the linguists, we are here to keep the accuracy of the language, yeah, and to keep it the tradition, which is important. But we can't deny that any language is developing because of new things are coming, and the same in teaching. We should try the new approach, and we should try the natural approach, and see what doesn't work for us and for our students, and then come back to what works for us, depending on the topic or so on. Some practical stuff, yeah. If we look at these sentences, can you identify errors in the sentences? Okay, the first one done. What about the second one? Mm-hmm. Okay, I've got correct answers for the second one. What's about the third one? Okay, that's interesting. Interesting. Thank you very much for your answers. There are some nice ideas that I wouldn't even think about it, but let's have a look at the correct answers. So, error 1. It's the error of meaning. Used to needs to be replaced with went, as everybody, almost everybody typed that in a chat, because we use used to talk about repeated actions in the past and not single events that happened last weekend. Great. Done. It was easy. The meaning error. The second one, error of form. Instead of used to, there should be used to, instead of used to go, used to go, because that's the form of this form. It goes with an infinitive. Yeah, done. Form error. It was a little bit more difficult with this one, but these are also easy things. Error of pronunciation. It also goes with grammar, of course, because meaning and form are correct, yeah, here. But the spelling was wrong. Used to goes as s. Just pronounce that. Used to go. We don't even pronounce d here because it goes in line with the particle to. It goes used to go. Yeah. So pronunciation should be taken into account when teaching grammar. And error of spelling. There is a D missing from the end of use. It might be a typo, but we count it as a grammar mistake, yeah, a spelling grammar mistake, because it might sound like used to go. It might sound there is no d at the end, but it should be written properly. So these are two things that depend on the communication, right? On the type of the communication, whether it's written communication or it's speaking, oral, yeah, communication. So we can use this abbreviation as a memory aid when preparing or delivering grammar lessons. M and F should always be addressed when focusing on grammar in the classroom. P, pronunciation, is vital to assuming specific learners need to use the grammar in speech as well as in writing. And S, spelling, depends on your context. Spelling is not a particular issue. That is, it is no more problematic than usual in English, because spelling errors are the same typical for Ukrainian language, for any other native language, as well as for native speakers in Britain or the USA. Sometimes even those who learn English as a second language write better because, well, they have to do it according to the rules. And I am just interested, again, I had some, I wouldn't say it was a poll, but there were a few people saying that they prefer Scholastic Approach, a few people saying they prefer Natural Approach. But what kind of grammar teacher are you? Grammar hooligan, someone who wouldn't teach grammar a lot. Grammar critic, or grammar rationalist? What do you think? Sorry, grammar hooligan. I would say someone who would like teach only grammar. Grammar critic, someone who doesn't teach grammar too much, but is more focused on other things. Grammar hooligan, also the one who would correct all the mistakes all the time. Huh, interesting. Okay. I used to, when I just started teaching, I used to be, when I was studying at school, I used to be a grammar hooligan. Like, I heard a mistake, my classmates, I would correct it because, well, that's how I thought I helped them. Yeah, but it's not very polite. And when I started teaching, I would be a grammar critic because I was learning way too much of the grammar at school, and then later not at the university. I didn't study English grammar at the university, but when I got acquainted with the methodology of teaching English, I realized that all the processes should work naturally for students, and they shouldn't be taught grammar from the very beginning until the very end and think that grammar is the most important thing ever. So I became a grammar critic. It was like my second step, but now I think I'm rather grammar rationalist because grammar is important. It is unavoidable, and you can't just not teach grammar and let students only notice how the language works. And from that, it depends how exactly we give instructions, explicitly or implicitly, right? How we teach grammar, inductively or deductively, right? And if we talk about how would I do it these days, of course, I would combine both ways, the grammar hooligan and the grammar critic, try to make them friends. Sorry for this funny light I'm having. I'll try to move somewhere. Oh yeah, that's better. Okay. So yeah, how do you teach grammar? We read or listen the text, and then students try to figure out meaning. If they don't, I explain. That's one approach. Then we translate and look for proper equivalents in Ukrainian. another approach, that's translating. I explain the rule, give formula tables and other references first. We practice, and then we try to make our own examples. Third approach, and we learn structures by heart. The fourth approach. Choose yours. Okay, I have mostly 1 and 3. The perfect way is when 1 and 3 combined, 2 and 4 used from time to time anyways, because we can't avoid translating, especially if we are teaching if students are interested, like, in finding equivalence in another language, and that helps understanding the cultural differences between the languages. Like when we are translating metaphors, when we are translating idioms, proverbs, and so on. This is about our cultural background and cultural communication. And translation is good for a reason, and on the not on the lower stages of learning English. Learning structures by heart, sometimes it makes sense, because sometimes we can just learn some chunks of the language. For example, there is a saying, long time no see. There is completely no grammar in this saying, yeah? And we would learn it by heart. But we need to understand how to grammatically, how to say it grammatically correct. I haven't seen you for a long time, yeah, but not long time no see. And yeah, but the first one and the third one should be combined, because and those who wrote 1 and 3, I'm with you. We first do 1 and then do 3. We don't just explain when students didn't understand. If this is our target language, target grammar for the lesson, we do explain, but not through telling that to students, but through eliciting that from students and helping them, facilitating them in this process with giving them the system, the template of this system, how it should work. Okay, so the key principles of clarifying meaning for grammar would be providing context for target grammar structure to help learners understand the meaning. And the second, make use of questioning as opposed to just telling. Ask questions instead of telling how it should work, in order to bring grammar to learners' conscious attention and involve them actively in the process of working out the meaning. For example, how it works with prepare level 1, we have let's structure, let's and shall we. I remember the times when we had some specific difference between will and shall, but for today, shall stayed only in a few phrases. One of them is here. We don't say we shall, but you will, or something like that. We will and so on. But with shall, we have the suggestion, and the function, language function here is suggestion. Look at the sentences. Yeah. Here, let's have a party. Shall we have a party? What's the difference? Do they mean different things? That's my question. Let's have a party. Shall we have a party? Yeah, it's a suggestion. Right. Are they different? Are these suggestions different? Okay, thank you for that. The second one needs answer, but this is a rhetorical question, right? It's it might be not so how to say it. It might be not so strict at the first. Let's have a party. Yes, I decided. My decision is there. But shall we have a party would be a little bit more like asking for validity of my suggestion. But at the same time, they are both suggestions. Just one is in the form of the question, another in the form of the statement. And this is something that we might ask our students. What's the difference? This is a question and this is a statement. That's all. The rest in this, in the meaning, they are super close. But the second one requires answer. Right. So we already took meaning and form. Yeah, in the second one, there is some hesitation. That's absolutely true. Sorry. So if we look at this chart, what do? Complete the table. Meet on Saturday. Yes, that's a good idea. Go to the cinema. I'd love to, or sorry, I can't. Which one goes in one? Okay, I think it's easy peasy for you. So we put let's in the first one and shall we in the second one, only because we know that the first one is a statement and the second one is a question. But look at this. The answers to both of them are the same. So not the answers, but the responses are absolutely the same. Let's have a party. Yes, that's a good idea. I'd love to. Or sorry, I can't. Shall we have a party? Yes, that's a great idea. I'd love to. Sorry, I can't. So it's not about the answer, not about the grammar, but the meaning, and the meaning is almost the same with some connotation of hesitation in the second one, and that students might notice. You noticed it for sure, and your students will notice it in the context, but the meaning is the same. The form is different. Good. Now we go to pronunciation. Shall we? And we go to spelling. Let's with apostrophe and so on. Okay. Then we have a grammar reference where this is done. Yeah. But we need to find as many questions to check students' meaning, students' understanding of the meaning as we can. Practice, practice again, and then produce, right? So if we look at how grammar is taught in Prepare, it's taught inductively. You can definitely, there are tables, of course, there are tables and charts at the end of the book. There is a grammar reference. But first, it's better to elicit these grammar rules from the students by asking them all the questions. And in this case, we move from the typical structure of presentation, practice, and production to discovery, consolidation, use. By the way, created by Herbert Buchter, who is my other favorite author with methodology, and his 101 tips for teaching teenagers. This is a new edition, and you can also order it from the Linguist Company. But that's not the point. The point is that he created this idea of discovery, consolidation, use, where students discover the rules with your guidance, and they don't have to have it in the book. They might make notes and so on, but the book provides students with the context, targeted context, but still without the charts and ready-made decisions, because this is what we're developing, the problem-solving competency, the critical thinking competency, and this is how it's being developed. Right. Sorry for these slides. They were supposed to be closed. Let's look at these tips. Keep it positive, for sure, because as I told you at the very beginning, grammar is magic. Grammar is the art of writing letters, as Greeks and English people say, and Latin people say that it's a set of rules. And which language survived? Yeah, those languages that think it's art and magic. Anyways, we need to keep it positive, and we need to keep it interesting and involve students into grammar discovery, but not just presentation. Provide students with a context. Do not overgeneralize, because there are many exceptions in the rules. If we generalize, we will meet students saying, it shouldn't be like that, like no, long time no see. Finding equivalents in our language might work for that really well. Then let the students notice and discover. Let the students choose, and let the students make mistakes. Challenge your students. Keep in mind the type of the intellect. Like there are visual students, there are audio students, there are kinesthetic students. Me, for example, very kinesthetic. If I don't touch something, it doesn't mean, it means I didn't learn it, at least a book. So keep in mind the type of intelligence. Develop life competencies at the first place. Not just the language, but also life competencies. Sorry for that sun again, but thanks God there is sun, eh? Okay, meaning, form, communication. Check the meaning first. Ask questions about the meaning first in any grammar structure. Provide students with the form. Ask them to discover this form, and then see how it works in the communication. By the communication, I mean spelling and speaking. Pronunciation and spelling as well. I was using a teacher development training plan by Alex Tilbury a little bit. I was using How to Flip Your Grammar Lessons by Matt Ellman, and I was using most of my ideas went from Prepare level 1, which is a great start for teachers and students' creativity, as well as a great exam preparation resource. More activities will be available for you in the training session Grammar Drummer, which will take place on the 22nd of October. And you can scan the code to follow the exact link and enter this training session on the 22nd of October. I will be providing some really nice activities based on my experience of teaching acting and teaching language. So I will be trying to combine the approach of the scholastic approach with the natural approach, together with acting, teaching drama, teaching acting approach. And while teaching drama, you can actually see really great results in teaching grammar. On the 13th of October, there will be pilot project Zoom conference. So if you're interested in listening to what's new about pilot project and what books we are piloting, you can email me. You can see my email address here on the screen, tatianashalepko@cambridge.org. And if you email me, I will send you back the link to the Zoom conference on the 13th of October. We have our Cambridge October newsletter with all the events from Cambridge, from General Office in Cambridge, and from what we're doing with the Linguist Company here. So download newsletter, find new resources, find all the events, timetables, and enjoy your reading with the newsletter. Okay, I'm trying to hide, but okay, done. Now, Prepare is a great course. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Call your manager in the Linguist Company and find what's great about this course. Not just inductive grammar activities, but also great life skills activities, loads of projects, and amazing exam preparation for A2 key, B1 preliminary, and B2 first students from the 5th till 11th grade. And use our website, Practice Makes Perfect. I provided you with the link in your thank you letter, and also check out our new catalog. You will be able to find it in a newsletter as well. If you have any questions, you can email your either manager in the Linguist Company, or here you can see my sorry, some connection breakdown. Here are my contact details. Tatiana Shalepko, that's me, Cambridge University Press CLT consultant, and the Linguist Company, which is the official distributor for Cambridge University Press in Ukraine. Thank you. And I'm finishing the webinar right now. You will find your certificate after you fill out the feedback form, which will pop up right after I finish the webinar. You will also receive it in your thank you letter together with the recording of this webinar. Have a great evening and have a great weekend. Thank you for listening.